Hello and welcome to another edition of the Wrap Up. I'm joined by Don Yang, Mr. Producer Don Yang, who's also producing the show, but he's been kind enough to join me on the screen as well, where we are recapping the Toronto Raptors 131-91 slapping of the Indiana Pacers. And just for anyone that tuned in, just is tuning in late, maybe didn't catch the start of the game, I'll refresh basically all the major talking points that you need to know in order for any of this show to make sense. So in the second quarter, a speaker caught on fire in Scotiabank Arena, and they evacuated the sections directly under the speaker while the game continued to play, which was very weird. And then eventually there was a timeout, and they evacuated all of Scotiabank Arena because of this fire. And basically an hour later, they put out the fire. All the fans were gone. They were not allowed back in. And the Raptors and the Pacers finished this game in front of an empty arena. After an hour delay. And the Raptors they were already up like 30 when the break happened, and they just continued rolling from there on out against a Pacer team where it's really hard to really draw any conclusions because it's not like they're trying very hard and they're missing a lot of key guys. So that was the fire situation. There was also a moment where Jack and Matt, who were announcing the game for TSN, started talking about Anchorman. Not entirely sure how that started. And instead of saying Ron Burgundy, Jack said Ron Jeremy. And so that led to a whole conundrum of things to happen. And I don't know if I'm forgetting anything. Other than that, I think there was just a game. But yeah, Don, what I mean, I guess picking between those two things, what stood out to you the most? What was the more entertaining part of the game?
Definitely this one. Like I was actually laughing for a good minute, and then I kind of missed the highlights after. So yeah, other than this and the fire catching up on speaker, not much of a storyline in this game, right? Other than the Raptors being the 6th seed finally.
Yeah. So yeah, actually, I mean, this part was hilarious. I didn't understand what was going on at first because I didn't hear the Ron Jeremy reference. I just heard, Matt laughing and giggling and cackling, and I was like, "Oh, this is great content." And then when I went back and heard it, I was like, "Oh, that's why he's like laughing and telling him to stop." Because like I was thinking he's like actually stop talking right now.
What was more funny, Matt's laugh or Jack saying Ron Jeremy?
Jack is so funny. I love Jack, man. He's so unnecessary too with some of the stuff he says. Like he'll bring up like drinking references for no reason too. But yeah, I mean, we'll get into the fire a bit more, I guess. But this is really the most significant part of the game, which is that the Raptors officially passed the Cavaliers for the 6th seed because the Cavs lost to the Chicago Bulls tonight, and the Raptors won. So they're now, a half game up on the Cavs for that 6th seed, and only a half game behind the Bulls for the 5 seed. Although they have to pass them in the standings because the Bulls hold the tiebreak. So, I mean, just looking at the Eastern Conference standings here, it's pretty insane how tight. First of all, the first 4, they're all within a half game of each other. And then the next 3 are all within a game of each other, right? Or 2 games with each other. So I've never do you ever remember something like this late in the season where it's been this compact?
Probably at least not in the Eastern Conference.
Yeah.
I think usually it's the Western Conference that's more tight and more, like they're better. They were usually always better for like last decade, but I think it's now Eastern Conference teams to shine from now on. I think the biggest question here is like, who would you? I mean, we always talk about this, but who would you want to face if the Raptors are finished in 6th seed? Is probably the question that we always ask, but it's entertaining because it changes all the time, right? The seeding, like you mentioned, it juggles all the time, and then it probably will. It won't end like this.
And the interesting thing is that it like this the seedings changes, but also like the teams change because for a while I would have said that I don't want to play Miami. But, with the way that they not just are like imploding publicly, but also just the way that they're playing recently, they're a little less scary than they were. And obviously Boston a couple of weeks ago, I would have said I'd love to play Boston, but Boston's been the best team in the league for so long. But I mean, I'm assuming I can include the Bulls in this, but out of that top four, who would I want to play the most? It's so tough. I kind of want to say the Sixers. And my
I
reason
honestly,
would be,
I, yeah, I
yeah,
didn't
go
realize
ahead.
they were the first. No, I was gonna say I did not realize they were first right now.
Yeah, they just moved into first tonight because
But they
Miami
didn't even play
lost.
tonight, though, right? Yeah,
No, but Miami lost.
right.
So, and they played last night and won. So yeah, I would say the Sixers because I just don't trust the guys around Embiid and Harden. And even Harden has you kind of have to hope that Harden doesn't have a good playoffs like he's shown to not have certain times. And then also Maxey, like it's a lot of
Mhm.
pressure on Maxey's shoulders as a second year player to go out and perform in the playoffs. And I just don't trust Tobias Harris, Danny Green, those type of guy. I think
Even
easily out
Harden.
yeah, like I think easily outside of their top three, they have the worst team out of this group that we're talking about. Like outside of their top three, their depth is by far the worst. So I'd probably have to say the Sixers. How about you?
Me too, but I think like this kind of worries me, and not just because like the Embiid and Harden are going to combine 30 free throws a game.
Yeah.
It's just that will limit the Raptors to play the offense at their best, which is like the transition, fast break, and all
Mm-hmm.
that. Like and the Raptors aren't really the best at 5-on-5 half court offense, right? And that kind of free throws, fouling a lot, foul troubles, and all that worries me. But yeah, even if I have to choose a team, yeah, probably the Sixers.
Yeah, that's a fair worry, but I'll say this about the fouls too is that the playoff whistle is always a little bit tighter. Like there's always less fouls called in the playoffs. They let things go more physical, and I think that's really gonna benefit the Raptors just in general. And in a series potentially against the Sixers, that could really be a swing factor, kind of depending on how the officials like officiate it, because it's not
Mhm.
going to be like the regular season, but there's also levels to it. Like how tight are they going to call it? It's hard to say, but it's just like the other teams are so good, and like I know for a fact, for example, the Boston is a bad matchup with Toronto. We've kind of seen that.
Never, yeah.
Milwaukee
It's
just has
always
too much. Yeah, and then Milwaukee and Miami are kind of both in the same boat for me where they've been in the last two finals. Like they just have the experience and the know-how in terms of playoff reps and against a team as inexperienced as the Raptors are, I would kind of be scared of that. Um, let's talk a little bit about the fire, and then we'll briefly get into the game. But I don't know if you can pull up any of the footage we saw about that speaker. But basically, a speaker caught on fire inside Scotiabank Arena, and you can see it here. And it was on fire while the building was full, which was weird. Like they were evacuating one section, but they were just letting the game go on while everyone knew that the speaker was on fire, which I thought was weird. And then finally they stopped the game, and I thought the funniest, maybe the most entertaining moment of the whole game for me was when Raptors PA announcer Herbie Kuhn
yeah.
said, "Sorry, but we're evacuating the building. Everyone has to leave," and people started booing him, and he just said, "Shh,"
And
like
people actually
like a
listened.
yeah,
Like they
like a
shushed after.
yeah, they did, and he was just like such a in dad mode, just shushing people, like so rude, but also so necessary. And yeah, I've never seen anything like this. I thought it was funny because a lot of Raptors fans were freaking out, like, "Oh my god, what if we have to play and we have to restart the game rather than being up 30? Like, what if we have to wait till tomorrow and we have to start from 0-0?" I'm like, that would suck, but at the same time, if you lose to this version of the Pacers, then you deserve to lose to this version of the Pacers, you know?
I don't think that'll happen though, right? Even if they delay to the game to tomorrow morning, I don't think they'll start from the beginning 0-0.
I don't know because I just don't think there's any precedent for like a game waiting until the next day to restart. So I don't think they
Right.
should. it wouldn't really make sense to, but I think there's a small chance they would, just because they could say like, look, it's a new day. A lot has changed. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. What else can we say about the fire? Because that was pretty wild. I mean, I thought it was a little weird. Like, couldn't they have just gotten up and extinguished it with people in the arena? You know?
That's pretty risky, don't you think? I don't
I
know. I think
feel
that's
like
risky.
the risk is like if the speaker fell. That's a risk for sure. But just in terms of going up there the way they did and holding a fire extinguisher to it, I feel like they could have done that.
But I think that'll kind of make the spectators worry a lot,
Fair. That's
because
fair.
like looking
People
at
might
that,
be freaking out.
yeah,
Yeah,
and like I think credit to the fans, like leaving the building with, in a peaceful way.
for sure. I feel
Yeah.
bad for them because like they're gonna get their money back, but there's only 8 games. There's only like 6 home games left in the season, so they're probably not gonna make it to another game this season, and they kind of just got to see like a quarter, and that kind of sucks for them. But not much you can do, honestly, when a speaker goes on fire.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the first time to me seeing speaker on fire that delayed the game.
Yeah. Do any of our fans in the comments have thoughts on the fire? Let's see. Yeah,
That's
lots of jokes about Precious starting a fire. He did shoot 4 of 5 from 3 tonight, and I think all the 4 makes were in the first half. So yeah.
prior to the fire. Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay. That's enough. That's probably enough. Let's talk a little about the game itself then, and feel free to just run some highlights from Twitter in the background. But the Raptors just came out in this one, and sure, it is the Pacers, and it's a version of the Pacers that, is not that impressive with Brogdon out and Turner out. But at the same time, I thought the Raptors like really took care of business and treated this game as, a professional tonight. But more than that, what stood out to me was like the ball movement on
Yeah.
offense. They were just like better than I've seen all season. They were just making that extra pass and just finding going from a good shot to a great shot, just like here, just like Armoni Brooks does here for Precious. So yeah, for me, I think it was the ball movement offensively that really stood out to me for the Raptors. Was there anything that stood out for you on a team scale?
Yeah, no, I was actually gonna say that too. Ball movement. Like the team had 34 assists. That's insane for a team that's like bottom 3 in assists in the league right now.
Yeah.
And like I think this version, I know it's like Indiana Pacers, so that had obviously factored in. But I think this version of play, where less of an isolation, a lot of ball movement, is like I don't say it's better for the team, but it's for me, it's more entertaining at least.
Yeah.
And I think it does help in the playoffs if they play like this. And then Indiana went to zone early in the game too, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that kind of helps the Raptors to prepare for the playoffs, where when the team zone up on them, knowing like the Raptors don't have a lot of spacing, which I think with OG coming back and Gary Trent didn't even play in this game, so I think one by one they're like learning, they're growing together, and yeah, it's gonna be really really intriguing to see what they do in the playoffs.
Yeah, and even like going into next season, I think just the chemistry that they're developing on both sides has been really impressive. And yeah, like you said, 34 assists on 51 made field goals. That's definitely for a record for the Raptors this season. And yeah, it benefits them for sure to not feed into the isolation too much and to move the ball, because it also just gets everyone involved. And the other guy I want to talk about is Armoni Brooks, who you just saw get a dime there. And he had, as people in the comments reminded me, 6 assists tonight, which is not what you expect from a guy who's kind of there to do this, which is make very far 3-point shots. He did a good job doing that. He stepped in for Fred VanVleet after the break and started basically because Fred was out with the knee stuff after the hour-long break. And Armoni just kind of stepped in for Fred and made it look like he's kind of been there all season. And it's easy to forget that this is a guy who just signed 2 10-days and then signed a contract with the team just today or yesterday to basically stay on and have a small partially guarantee for next season as well. So yeah, I mean, how much has Brooks impressed you, considering he's only been around the team for a couple weeks now?
He definitely impressed me. Like, obviously not just the shooting, but the defensive versatility and like the hustle play. And yeah, it's because like with Malachi Flynn not playing for a while, like it just helps to have another backup point guard. And I like the 6 assist part. I think he could be that playmaker, bench playmaker in this team. And I think already he's like the fact that he signed a 2-year deal is that like the Raptors have him over like Banton and like I don't know about Flynn. Like it'll be interesting when he comes back how the minutes will get distributed. But yeah, I think Brooks has been amazing at his role so far.
Yeah, I mean, to your point, on the defensive side, he had a steal and a block today, and it is impressive, his length. And when you have that much length and athleticism and you hustle as much as he does to get back in transition, like it seems like he makes a play every single game on that end. And yeah, I mean, it is impressive that he's just passed guys like Banton and Svi and Utah so quickly, and I think rightfully so. It's hard to argue with kind of Nurse's thinking there with him playing so many minutes over those guys. He's totally deserved it because he's just stepped into the system so well and knocked down shots, which is really what they need from him. His spacing just helps. There was one play where Scotty kind of turned the corner on a fake dribble handoff because the defender was so scared of Brooks getting the ball that he just stuck with him. But yeah, you raise a good point about Flynn. I mean, what do you think should happen there? Because that is going to be a tough call if Flynn gets back and he's healthy and Brooks is here. It's not like both can really play in terms of the minutes distribution, especially considering Gary is going to be back. So who do you think should maybe get those minutes?
I think it's going to be Brooks because Brooks has if Brooks fits better at the bench, I think, because Flynn is more of a scorer than a playmaker. I think Armoni plays more of a hustle type of defense. And the fact that he's playing right now, like this crucial moment of the season, kind of gives him a little bit of an advantage over Malachi. And I don't even know his timetable. Like, are you?
No. Well, all I know is that Nurse originally said that OG would be back first and Flynn would be followed closely after OG. So, I mean, OG came back a little quicker than I think even Nurse anticipated. So, I don't think Malachi is that far away. But like you said, I think I agree with you. Like, even when he comes back, it's going to take him some time to kind of get those reps and find his rhythm again. And with Brooks already in rhythm, it's going to take Brooks, I think, messing up for Malachi to really get a chance, rather than Malachi just, it's not like really Malachi earned anything. Like he did play well in a few games when Flynn was out, but he hasn't impressed overall this season so much that you could say like he deserves automatically to get those minutes as soon as he's back. But they both bring, I also think like if we're talking about the playoffs, it'll depend on the matchup, and even regular season Nurse kind of plays guys depending on matchups. So if you want that kind of more of a playmaker off the bench, then you go with Malachi. If you want shooting really desperately, then you go with Birch. But also I would say with OG and Gary coming back, maybe they value shooting a tiny bit less because they'll finally have it.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
So it's hard to say, but hey, like in general, you want to have as many options as you can have, and it's nice to have another option with Brooks, even maybe just kind of playing the Jody Meeks role I always say in the championship season, where you come in and just for the last offensive possession of a quarter and shoot a three. Did anyone else stand out to you today from the Raptors?
I don't know. Like I wasn't really focused on the game, to be honest, too much, because so many like outside of events happening. But obviously, Precious going off and three point shooting.
Yeah.
He has 18 points, 405 from threes, like we mentioned, and Boucher, and like how we were so worried about the bench production, like earlier in the season, and now like Chris Boucher and Precious are like combined like 33 points, 16 rebounds. I think that's coming along, which really helps the Raptors. And I think the next couple of games, especially the next game against Boston, is a real tester for the future in the playoffs.
Yeah, but Boston game is going to be very interesting. I'm most excited to see how Siakam plays because he's really had trouble against Boston historically.
And Jaylen Brown, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm curious to see, like, I think he's made these improvements in ways that kind of defenses can't really negate. Like, I think no matter what you throw at him, he'll find a way to be effective at this point. But the Boston game will be a test of that for sure. To answer Ryan's question, yeah, he's playoff eligible with the contract he just signed. However, it means that Justin Champagny is not playoff eligible because he's on a two-way and it wasn't converted. But yeah, in terms of Boucher and Achua, you're right though. Like those two kind of just getting better over the course of a season, slowly but surely, has completely changed the way we look at the Raptors bench. And when you consider that in a playoff series and even down the stretch of the season, they're not going to play more than 7-8 guys a night, or they at least don't need to. That's really good because okay, you have the starting five when JTJ is back in there, so I'm not including Ken Birch, and then you have Precious and Boucher, who definitely deserve to be 6 and 7, and then you can go Thad Young at 8, you can go Armoni Brooks at 8, you can go Malachi Flynn at 8, you can go Ken Birch at 8, but you know that your first kind of 6, 7 at least, you know your first 7 for sure with Achua and Boucher. And then 8, I would think, is probably Thad's right now. He has been good recently, but it could really go to any number of guys. So I'm definitely feeling a lot more confident in like that rotation than I was 2-3 weeks ago.
Definitely. But like the problem, well, I guess it's not really a problem these days for the Raptors, but so you have Boucher, Achua, and Thaddeus Young coming off the bench for like the eight-man rotation. Do you worry about like a little bit of spacing, even though Precious and Chris can shoot the three, but they're not like really a traditional 3-point shooting player, right?
Yeah.
So maybe like Brooks replaces that sometimes. I think it goes by like the game by game and see the matchups.
Yeah, but it's all. I mean, first of all, you got to play to your identity. I think, and their identity is being long and defensive. And second of all, the three that we just mentioned, they're all shooting the ball well right now. So if that continues, then I don't think you need to mess with it. But I could also see for sure in a playoff series when those looks aren't just quite as clean, maybe like a couple of those guys, their jumper falls off. I could definitely see that. And then you got to definitely reconsider things. But as of right now, the way they're shooting, I think it works.
Yeah. This guy missed the whole game.
Yeah, I'm just looking. If anyone has questions for us in the comments, we'll get to a couple. I'm just looking at the comments now.
A lot of Utah talks, eh?
Yeah, the people of Utah. I don't know what to say. Like he played fine in the minutes he was given, but you can't really. I don't think people should be taking anything away from a game like this. Like to be honest, it's maybe like he missed a couple open threes, whatever. It's not like this is really gonna affect his playing time. So I wouldn't be too worried about Utah. I know we all like him though. Who do we think deserves the most minutes at center?
There is no center. There is no center position.
Yeah, exactly. It's hard to say because no one really plays center, like, or multiple people play center at the same time. So I don't know how to answer. But are you asking like between Precious and Kem and Boucher maybe? Because like that I could answer, but I
Wait, are
don't
we
know.
talking about the playoffs? Then it's gonna be Pascal
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah. Anyways, ideal first round matchup for the Raptors. We did already do this. Maybe let's go back to the standings. But so we both said Philadelphia. Let's make a case though for another team, for the Raptors to go against in the playoffs in the first round, out of Miami, Boston, and Milwaukee. So I will make the case, unless you want to dibs one of these.
Go
I'll make
ahead.
the case for Miami. Because what does scare me is their kind of experience between Jimmy and Kyle and Bam and PJ and Bam a little bit. Like, they know how to win in the playoffs. They know how to like dictate the pace of the game and play their style and all that. But a little bit of that has been taken away by the fact that they clearly are not happy with each other right now, and there's some issues in that locker room, which is kind of what you don't expect with 8 games left in the season for such an experienced team. But the real reason I think the Raptors would have a chance against Miami is just because like they match up really well, and we've seen it when they played each other. I think the Raptors are 3-1 against them this season. Like, both teams like to kind of play a dogfight, and that kind of that's good for the Raptors style when it's a game where, it's like, I don't know if sloppy is the right word, but it's just like really physical, and the ball's going all over the place, and offensive rebounds become a big factor, and the Heat just like they embrace that kind of slow, like physical game. And I think the Raptors are really good at playing that game as well, just because they're so big, and they can switch everything, and they can just throw a lot of length at Miami, and there's definitely guys on Miami you can pick on, like when it comes to obviously like Tyler Hero and guys like that. So I think the Raptors match up well with Miami in terms of what we've seen so far. And like when you look at Bam, he doesn't really scare you as a guy who you need to necessarily put 2 on in the post, where like a center like Embiid obviously, or Giannis obviously does. So I don't really think Miami has anyone who you have to like go and double in the post as soon as they get the ball.
Right. And like Butler not being able to shoot threes kind of helps too. I saw a stat today. I think it was like the Pascal propaganda Twitter account that Precious hit 4 threes in that like matter of like what 10 minutes, but Butler had 4 threes in the month of March. Like that's kind of crazy to me how Jimmy Butler doesn't shoot threes at this stage of his career, especially playing like it's good that he has a lot of shooters, but if Butler was with the Raptors right now, I don't think he would be as good as he is with the Heat. And yeah, I think I agree. Other than Sixers, I think the Heat, and I think the Celtics would be the one that I do not want to match up with more than Milwaukee.
Really? Why is that?
Yeah, it's just the Raptors can't like Boston just has their number,
Yeah.
It's a kryptonite. Yeah.
No, they definitely do. But I mean, for selfish or for just fan reasons, I'd love to see that series just because it would be like a shot at revenge, and kind of like, especially for guys like Pascal who had such a bad series in the bubble. I think he would really like be able to kind of avenge himself a little bit. And yeah, that was such a close series in the bubble that like I would love to see another 7 games between those two teams. But I would still be more scared of Milwaukee just because like Giannis is significantly better than Jason Tatum, and they just won a championship. So I just value that experience a lot. But I think I would put Boston second. So that's a credit to them considering how they started the season. They did take them to 7, but it was a different team. We had Serge, we had Mark, we had Norm. Like it was such a different team. We had Kyle, who was the best player for the Raptors in that series.
They didn't have the Time Lord. Well, they did, I think, but he wasn't like as rotational player than he is now.
Yeah, he played a bit. Yeah, this is a good question too, though. Who would be the best player in a Heat Rap series? I mean, I think it's like impossible to answer. Like, I've seen Jimmy do it. I've seen Jimmy step up in the playoffs. You
We all
know,
saw it in the bubble.
exactly. We all saw him lead a team to the finals. So I wouldn't be surprised if it was Jimmy. But like as of right now, I would say Siakam. As of like who's playing the best ball right now,
Yeah.
Siakam. But I also would be not like the playoffs changed a lot of things, and I wouldn't be shocked if Jimmy stepped it up to another level.
I wouldn't be shocked if Kyle Lowry is the best player in that series.
Yeah, see, I'm having trouble thinking about what Kyle is because he's just had a pretty mellow season. But I don't know, is he kind of waiting for the playoffs or is he just kind of getting old? You know, it's hard to say, I think.
I think Larry, for him, as a Larry fan, for I guess everyone is, for like past decade, he just needs to shoot more. I think the Heat fans want that too. He just shoot it, man. Like you're a good 3-point shooter. Just shoot like 10 threes a game. And then if it doesn't go in, just do what you do at best, like doing everything else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. I think that's a good place for us to get out of here, unless you have any last thoughts. We should do the Can-Am Taxman of the night.
All right.
Almost forgot about that. Okay, who do you want to give the Can-Am Taxman of the night to?
Jack Armstrong.
Jack Armstrong. I love it. I love it. I like it. Jack Armstrong, buddy. You're making history on the wrap up tonight. Getting the Can-Am Taxman of the night solely for calling Ron Burgundy Ron Jeremy. You deserve it. You made everyone laugh during a game that had no business being this entertaining. So yeah, shout out to Jack, and for all you guys who are scrambling to get your taxes, because I think that deadline's right around the corner. Go to canamtax.com or call VJ at the top of our screen, and they will get your taxes done for you quickly, on time, and they'll get you some money back. So go do that ASAP. All right. Lastly, we'll tee up the game on Monday against the Celtics, which, you know, the Celtics, it is the second night of a back-to-back for them. So that's the saving grace, I think, for the Raptors. But home game against the Celtics, Raptors all their guys got rest tonight. Who's your prediction for the win? What's the score gonna be? Whatever.
Oh man, don't hate me, but if I'm like betting my money, I think Boston's gonna win. But I hope it's a close game though, like a competitive game, like 100-97.
Okay, you gave us a score. Yeah, I think it will be, especially considering the Raptors are at home, and I think they've been playing better in front of their home crowds. But yeah, I mean, it's hard to pick against Boston right now just because they're rolling so well, and their defense has really been so good. But I think I got to take the Raptors. I mean, I have to be different than you too.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the Raptors are, you know, regardless of it being Indiana tonight, the Raptors are playing the best they've played all season. And you can say the same thing about Boston, and Boston's playing better. So yeah. But I think it's all been kind of culminating to one of these really big wins against an Eastern Conference opponent, against one of the best teams in the league. And why not happen on Monday night in front of a full arena? I'm ready.
Hopefully no fire.
Hopefully no fires that day. Yeah. All right. Anyways, thanks all of you. We really appreciate you tuning in this late after a little bit of a delayed game. Make sure to like us on YouTube and subscribe to the Raptors Republic YouTube channel. We will be back here on Monday night when the Raptors host the Celtics. And
I think we're like really, we don't have that much sorry, what was I going to say?
Oh, 7,000?
Oh, 7K. Yeah, 7K subs. Yeah, get us to 7K subs, guys.
Yeah, on YouTube. Get us to 7K subs. We deserve it. We put out great content, not just this show, but tons of other stuff from our Raptors Republic podcasts, little video clips, all that type of stuff. Again, we'll be back here on Monday. Thanks to Don for joining me and for producing this on the side. He did it all. So yeah. Thank you all. Good night.
Thanks, guys.